Hello. Some people are idiots. Okay, so now that I got your attention, that was based on a comment on Facebook by a lovely soul and led to a big conversation by many lovely souls, pretty much agreeing with that. So I wanted to make a video just to try to show a different perception, because this is all about perception. So first of all, I want to say there's nothing wrong with feeling that. So this isn't me saying you shouldn't feel that way. No, sometimes that's what you feel. The brain, that's what it, you're trouble dealing with somebody and they're behaving in a certain way, and you just can't seem to get through to them or to talk to them, or whatever the situation is. And so yeah, sometimes we could feel that way. The other comments were also understandable, saying that some people are idiots or behave like idiots. Or there's feelings that some just don't have the capacity or the intelligence to understand, that some people can be very dishonest. This and so many more things, yeah, it's all valid feelings. But what I wanted to make the video about was to see if I could shift perception, because this is all about perception. And our whole life is about perception, everything. And so it's okay to feel that way. But it benefits us not to feed that too much, to let it go, of course, like everything else. And if we can shift our perception, well, we can always shift our perception. So let's look at these idiots. First of all, we all act like idiots at some point. All of us. All of us. Some more than others. Some cultivate it more than others. It's just about stages of what they're going through. But we've all acted like idiots. I've acted like an idiot. I'm a super nice guy, easy to get along with, but I've had moments, usually more in interpersonal relationships with people I'm close to, where I've had a moment where I've acted like an idiot, or I just... And so here's what I want to talk about. I don't think it's really about intelligence or capacity. Maybe capacity at the time. But intelligence, honestly, I think we're all equally intelligent. Well, we are. It's just some of us have tapped into it more. Some of us tap more into the heart, some tap into the mind, some tap into it equally. We all have our strengths, areas we focus on. It's a very complex matrix here, and we're very complex beings. But in the depth, we all have the same intelligence. We all have the same brain. We all have the capacity, at the same capacity. But what we do with it, what we use it for, how we perceive things can change. And so it's good to pull back and remember, or try to remember, first of all, that yeah, we all can act like idiots, and but it's all about perception. And it's good to try to remember, that's what I try to do anyways, that we don't know what they're going through, truly. Only they can truly know what they're going through. And there are reasons why they're thinking and feeling the way they are. It's probably a whole slew of things. It's not just one thing. It's probably their conditioning. We're highly conditioned from birth to be very judgmental, to be very, we're conditioned in a world of lies. This world is completely, if you look at this world, the exterior part of the world, it's just nothing but lies. You can't believe anything you hear or say. You can't believe anything you read. You can't believe it. You have to scrutinize everything because it's just full of lies. The media constantly, for the most part, mainstream media is just lies with a couple crumbs of truth. People lie, companies lie, corporations lie. We're a species prone to lying, and it's partly conditioning, but it's also, even when we look at this world of lies, that's just an expression of us. Everything in this world is an expression of what we're going through. And so where are these lies coming from? The lies, if you go to the root, where are all these lies or behavior idiot behavior or any of these things, where do all these things come from? Even past conditioning, where do they come from? Well, where they come from is our struggle, and our struggle is in here. It's always the struggle between here and here. So conditioning also plays a role. Our family, conditioning of our environment and family plays a role. Our situations play a role. Some people are going through things that we couldn't imagine. Some people have seen and done things. Sometimes they're open about it, and we just don't really think about it. We forget, oh, gee, that's right. A month ago, that person's dad was killed in a car accident. We often forget. Or, oh yeah, I forgot this person was abused their whole life. So, and then on top of that, more so actually, is there's a lot we don't know. There's a lot people don't express. Human beings are very complex, but they're also, and they can be prone to lying, but they're also very prone to being very afraid, which is our common challenge, and really the core of it all, I feel, is our fear, the fear of the unknown, which then manifests into other fears. But if you really go down to it, I think it's the fear of the unknown is the core of it all. The fear of the unknown, which is why the mind labels, and which is why the mind sets in belief. So we can change our perception, and it's okay to feel those things, but I do want caution to not believe it. It's one thing to express and say, oh, that person is an idiot or is behaving like an idiot, or that's fine. But try not to believe that, though. It's okay, feel it, say it, that's good. It's good, it's healthy. Don't let it go. Don't actually then label that person is an idiot. It doesn't, because it's a judgment. It's a judgment based on a little bit of information and interaction in the grand scheme. I mean, maybe you know this person a long time, but maybe not. But it is a label, it is a judgment, which is also natural. We judge. And the best we can do is try not to hold on to those judgments. And when we find ourselves judging, which we will, we all judge, then we can work towards letting those go and recognizing when we're judging. And it's a process like everything. So it benefits us not to hold on to those beliefs. It's okay to feel them. It's okay to think them. But it definitely benefits us individually and collectively to not hold on to that as a truth, as a real truth. Because again, truth is all just perception. What's true to me is different to you. My truth is, let's love each other and just, we're incredible beings, live in abundance. This place is full of abundance. We're capable of anything. We're amazing beings. Another person's perception could be totally different, and so we all have different perceptions of the world and ourselves and everything else. And they're all valid, even if they don't resonate with us. Some really don't resonate with me, but, there is no real right and wrong. That's just, again, a trick of the mind. So it's really just expression. This is all just an expression. This whole world is an expression of what we're going through. And it's also good to practice empathy and I'm not saying you don't when you feel this way. I'm just saying when we find ourselves thinking these things or whatever, and if we're finding ourselves holding on a little tighter than we might want to, it's good to remind ourselves of the things I just mentioned, but it's also good to just remember that every human, we're incredibly blessed, but it's also an incredible challenge. Think about it. Each human, we didn't ask, well, our soul asked to be here, but, our actual character didn't ask to be born here. We were just born. So we're just here. And where are we? We're like overwhelmed. This place is overwhelming. Even if everything was going perfect in the world, just our physical and mental experience and our emotional experience and our spiritual experience is so layered, is so complex. If you think of all the things we have to do, aches and pains and thoughts and fears and wants and drives and all these things, it's really overwhelming. It's really overwhelming for every single human being. And then you add on top of that the complexity of now add a couple billion, all the energy, the physical contact, the actual connections, one-on-one connections through words and through physical, and then just the energy, what we know that everything we do and think is sending out and creating and co-creating this reality. So when you look at all the complexities of this world, first it starts with us. We're so complex. And then the world on top of that complex, and then this system we've built up, which doesn't work for anybody except to ascend it, this world of illusion, of lies and lack and competition where none is needed. It's just so layered, it's overwhelming. And then you get all this conditioning and everything else, and the environment each of us has to be in, and it's incredible. So what I'm saying is it's good to remember that every human being is doing the best they can, just like us. And although we are truly blessed, we truly are. Every moment is a gift. It's also a real challenge for us, this whole experience, and especially growing in this experience. It's really challenging. And so keep that in mind, that even all these people that we come across, whether they be lying or they don't seem to be very intelligent or whatever it is, again, those are judgments, but whatever it is you're feeling, which again is fine, keep in mind that, just like you, just like us, they're going through an amazing, overwhelming experience, which this is. So if we remind ourselves of that, it really helps to remember that, wow, we got to give each other a break here. We're this can be very challenging, really tough. So I'll probably wrap it up. I could go on and on about this forever, but I just wanted to basically just see if I could shift the perception a little bit, because it's all about perception. And once we change our perception, we change our experience, including how we see people. So it's okay when you feel these things. It's all right. If you're finding yourself judging or labeling, hey, that's part of the thing, part of the experience. But if we want to continue to grow and be the change and then send those waves out, especially as light workers, and this conversation was all light workers, but we're human, we're like everybody else. So it's normal we go through these things. But it benefits us to of course, ascend these things and recognize them and ascend them. And so we can change our perception of the world, we can change our perception of life, or we can change our perception of people. I used to be very judgmental back. I mean, I still, like I said, we all go through, have moments of judgment, but I don't hold on to them very tightly anymore. And that took practice and time and shifting. And I'm still working on it, of course. I'll always be working on it. But back in my 20s, I was more like in 30s more so, I was more like a lot of us, we start out in the truthing movement. First we wake up to the truth of the world that's illusion. We wake up to the truth of what's really going on in our system and in our society. And that's where the truth movements. And then a lot of us eventually shift into a next stage, which is we discover, that's quite overwhelming when you start to say, oh my God, it's just all what the truth is about everything going on here. It's overwhelming. But then eventually a lot of us, if not all of us, eventually start to shift when we start to realize then the truth of ourselves, the truth of our existence, that we're actually greater than this, that there's something more amazing, magical going on in all of this. So that's the natural process, it seems, and it certainly was for me. And so back in my 30s, I thought my mission was to tell it like it was. That when I saw wrongdoings or people behaving in a way that was wrong or unfair or cruel or whatever, I'd tell them right there on the spot. Didn't matter who it was. I remember once standing in a mansion in California. This was about 15, 20 years ago, I think. No, it was about 20 years ago, I think. A long time ago, standing in the middle of a mansion, telling off all these rich people, these Americans, and I was brutal. I told them all off. Now, there was a reason. They were being incredibly rude to me and a couple other Canadians that were there, being really rude and really brutal and really, it was a tough situation. And so I snapped and I told them off. I stepped right in the middle of the room and I made an announcement. And I told them all off. I think I went on 20 minutes. They couldn't believe it. And that's fine. Some people still do that. But now I've shifted. I've shifted along since then, where I don't feel that's my way anymore. I'd rather uplift people and let them grow on their own than tell them, my judgments on how they're behaving, about their judgments, So I'm not saying if that's what you do, then that's fine, I have a brother who still does that, and it comes from the heart, but he can be really intense, and but so I used to be heavy into judgment, and still judgment pops in like everybody, but it really did benefit me to let it go and to ascend it. So I do encourage you to try to forgive yourself when you are being judgmental and you are feeling these things, because it's totally natural. It's okay. It doesn't make you any less of a person. But I do encourage you to then step back and try not to hold on to that thought or that concept, and try to be empathetic and try to let go. If you can't be empathetic in the moment, then at least just for your own benefit, try to let it go. Say, okay, I'm feeling like this person is this person's a liar, whatever it is, or this isn't a nice person. Feel it, whatever, and then see if you can just let it go. Try not to hold on to it and label it, say that's the way it is now, because that's really where we are. One of our biggest struggles, again, with the mind and the heart, is belief is very dangerous. We see it. Some of the greatest tragedies that we see all the time, a lot of the biggest tragedy things are done in the name of belief. And even in our own lives, in small things, we see we don't handle situations as well, and we have trouble interacting with our fellow humans in the world when we narrow our vision to say this is how it is. So it's good to stay open. So I just wanted to make a video to say it's okay that you feel that way. It's totally okay. But try to see if you can not hold on to it. Definitely try to practice that. Feel it and let it go. It benefits you, it benefits us all, because we got to stop being so hard on each other. Yes, people can be really trying. I'm a very simple person, so I find really most people very complex in comparison, very complex. And it can be difficult. I've always been a simpleton. And so it can be very complex, and it can be very difficult when I step into the world and you start talking to people and interacting and all these things. It can be really difficult. So yeah, let's try to keep how we're going and let go of judgments best we can, and try to ascend them, and give each other a break, and try to be empathetic, and remember that even if they're behaving in a way that's just outrageous, they're doing the best they can, they're ascending certain things. That's their thing to ascend, right? And they are capable of much more. They really are, even if they seem like the biggest moron in the world, moron. And let's try to stop name-calling, too. It benefits us to stop name-calling if we can. Sometimes we do, but it does benefit us. Because, again, that's a label, right? So let's try not to label each other if we can. Expressing is okay, but, again, as long as we're not holding on to those, is that this kind of people are liars, or this kind of people are idiots, In the moment is fine, but if we can let it go, it benefits us. So yeah, let's give each other a break. Give yourself a break. If you're feeling if you're one of the people that felt this and expressed this, that's okay. Forgive yourself for that too. It's okay to feel this. Sometimes that's a natural thing. Our perception is they seem to be behaving like a complete idiot all the time. That's how it feels. It's okay to feel that way. It's okay. But do yourself a favor, do us all a favor. See if you can let that go, though. And don't put all your attention to it, because then you're also suffering, right? Because then you're giving your power to them, too. And a lot of this is energy exchange, too. You have to realize that. It's so complex. So it's belief, it's conditioning, it's also energy exchange. A lot of people get into, there's different ways we take our energy. The Celestine Prophecy, some of the workbooks after the main book, were great at I don't remember them all. I think there were 5 or 6 they talked about of general ways that people take each other's energy. And so there's the aloof. Aloof would be someone who's the mysterious person, who never wants to give any information, and everybody always has to come to them to get information or pull stuff out of them. That's a way of taking energy, and all these ways of taking energy we unconsciously learned from our environment and people we know and our families. And so none of us really know we're doing it, and that's also a natural process that we can ascend by recognizing it. But people do, so there's different, and most of us don't just do it in one way. We may lean towards one more, but we might use a little bit of law without realizing. Usually that's the case. Most people, they do it in a couple different ways, but they lean more towards one. So there's the aloof that does it by being mysterious and always that pulls energy towards them. Then there's the interrogator. So that's someone, when you're talking, they're just grilling you, and they have a way of just grilling everybody and making everybody feel in their life like they have to explain themselves to them. That's the interrogator. Geez, I can't remember the rest. I can only think of the 2. Aloof. Oh, poor me is one. So we see people that are always whining about morning, noon, and night about their life, and always, oh, this and oh, that. That's also something they've learned that they're not realizing they're doing. And that's a way of pulling energy, because when they're always going, oh, poor me, then people go, oh, really? And they give your energy towards them. That's how they get energy. So it's also good to remember what I'm saying is that also energy plays into this. So these people that you're having difficulty dealing with, it's a combination of their beliefs in their mind, whatever they feel about themselves and the world that they need to ascend. It's also about conditioning. It's also about energy exchange. They're probably engaged, however they're behaving is probably an unconscious way that they're taking your energy and other people's. So I do hear a lot of people say, yeah, people are vampires. Again, let's let go of that label if we can, and not see each other as vampires. That's a bit harsh. It can feel that way for sure. And it definitely points towards the truth, which is this is all an energy exchange. Everything here is an energy exchange. We're made of energy. Everything is energy. And it's all connected. So keep that in mind, that there's so many layers. It helps you, when you look at these things, it helps to understand them more. You still might not understand them as their character, their person, their personality, but you can understand them at least from a situational point of view of what, what they have to go through in life and what they might be going through. And so if we can look at it that way, it really does help. And then we judge less, and we don't hold on to these ideas, and we forgive pretty quick. I'm really forgiving now. I always was, really, for the most part, in my adult life. But it just gets stronger and stronger, so I don't hold on to grudges. There's people do and say things to me sometimes that, 15, 20 years ago I wouldn't have put up with for a second. And now I just let it go. It doesn't even bother me most of the time. Or it'll bother me for a minute, and then I just let it go. No, it's okay, So it happens. We can let it go. Even if somebody is just being totally unfair and cruel or whatever, you can let it go and just go, well, they're going through something. It has nothing to do with me. That's another good reminder. Remember that whatever it is they're behaving that's frustrating you, it has nothing to do with you. So you don't need to put energy towards it. You don't need to suffer about it. Just pull away, show compassion. And if it's really extreme, then you might have to let them go. Step away from them for good. But maybe not. It just might be a stage. People do grow. Keep that in mind. Even these so-called liars and idiots and whatever it is, how they appear in our perception. Keep in mind they're ascending things, even if they don't seem to be growing. They're ascending things. We just don't know what they are. They are growing in certain ways. And they will continue to, in their own way. Sometimes it's very slow, and sometimes it's very fast. More times than not, it's slow with little giant leaps, small leaps. So that could be the case with them. They could seem to be not growing, but maybe they are growing in small ways we don't know. Maybe they did forgive them. They still behave in a terrible way, and they lie and whatever, but they forgave somebody for something. Well, that counts. They ascended it. And so, but from our perception, maybe they're just growing, hardly at all. But they will have leaps down the road. They will have some bigger leaps. We've seen it. We've seen people that have 360 that have completely changed. And we're always changing. So it's getting a bit long-winded. So it's totally understandable when you feel these things. Give yourself a break. It doesn't make you wrong or anything. Again, let's stay away from the labels. It's natural. But just try not to hold on to these ideas. Any ideas, really. Play with them, feel them, and let them go. And when we do that, no harm done. No harm to us, no harm to the collective in our... Because we're also programmed. Remember, everything we're going through is not only sending out waves of energy. It's not only being the change in a practical sense, because everything we do and say does affect people in a very practical way. And secondly, on an energy level, it's a creational process. So we're sending out waves of energy, which creates all of this. So there's so many layers, and everything we do, think, and feel is creating, including creating our own experience. That's the other thing, our own perception. So, yeah, don't sweat it. It's okay. I totally understand why you'd feel that way, but just see if you can let it go. Try to let go of the names and the labels if you can, meaning holding on to them, and as truth. And yeah, welcome to the show. It's quite a ride. It's quite a ride. Love and light.